Okay. Die Frage ist jetzt, wo wir die Pocket Watch präsentieren können, weil die zeigt ja an, dass sie noch läuft. Was ja dagegen spricht, dass sie zum Zeitpunkt des Todes angehalten wurde. Ich habe das Gefühl, aufs letzte Statement, wir gucken mal. I don't know anything about that. The notice board. I just wiped my hand on it, that's all. Maybe I did sneak along behind gossip and have a little peek into the room where it all happened. I don't know anything about anything. I'm just a bystander, me just sending a sign at the crossroads of life. It was a creeper, but it's got a face that screams sport. I can't see how this changes anything anyway. The lake is still light when we heard the gunshot. Da vielleicht die Uhr, weil das das einzige Statement ist, was irgendwie Zeit in sich hat. Würde ich vermuten. Objection! Und es ist tatsächlich auch so. I'm afraid that's not necessarily the case. Oh! At the scene, we found this key to the window window of the inspector's pocket watch. A key. And having ruined the pocket watch, we discovered that it in fact still works. You see, the watch didn't stop because it was broken an hour. And that fact completely undermines one of the most fundamental parameters on which this entire case has been built. What? Order, order, order! But counsel, the watch was stopped at almost exactly 5 o'clock. Yeah, which is just when we heard that gunshot. It is, exactly the hour. The time that was shown on the watch tells us nothing other than when it went down. It's merely a coincidence that it happened to be at 5 o'clock. Objection! Even if that's true, the 3 witnesses here all heard the gunshot at 5 o'clock. So that's obviously when this crime was committed. Objection! No, that doesn't hold. Why not? Recall what Inspector Lestrade said, only moments ago. The boss used to wind it up every evening without fail when he was waiting for a scrub to come to the pub. Said he hadn't missed a day in the last 10 years, polishing it and winding it. It meant the world to him, that watch did. The victim was in the habit of winding his watch once a day, in the evening. We can reasonably assume, therefore, that he wound up the timepiece on the evening before he died as well. Yes, that would be entirely reasonable. But if that's the case, you wouldn't expect the watch to have completely wound down by 5 o'clock the following day. Oh, aye! Well, how do you explain it then? In summary, the evening before the day of the incident, when the gunshot rang out in that room, the inspector was already unable to wind his watch. You can't mean! What would stop a man winding his watch if he's been in the habit of winding it every single evening for 10 years? The obvious answer is that he was already dead! Order! Order! Counsel, that is a most extraordinary claim. Objection! Extraordinary isn't the word, it's absurd. You claim he was already dead the night before? Do you really think that Scotland Yard's coroner would have overlooked something like that? Well, on that subject, there is something rather surprising. Stimmt! Gucken wir uns mal den Autopsiebericht an. Time of Death. Steht da einfach nicht. Steht da einfach nicht. Also das bringt Susato jetzt wahrscheinlich hervor. There's actually an omission in the coroner's report. The time of death is not noted. That's right. Wait a minute. You're forgetting that my legs went from under me when I kicked the door in. What do you mean? Like I said, I planted my hand in a dirty great puddle of blood. Yes. So the victim's blood hadn't dried. It was fresh. He catches on fast, doesn't he?
Objection!
But that blood could be explained in any number of ways. It could have been put there afterwards. Some fresh blood could have been poured over the victim's body.
Objection!
Does my learned friend think that fresh blood is available on every street corner? Ah! Jetzt fängt auch schon mit dem learned friend Scheiß an. Well, it needn't necessarily have been human blood, of course. We've been told previously that Scotland Yard has no way to identify blood as human. The problem is currently being researched. At present, you are correct. It is beyond our abilities. So then, a chicken's blood could have been used, for example. It's certainly a possibility that it wasn't the inspector's blood at all.
Objection!
But the gunshot was heard at 5 o'clock that afternoon. That's beyond question. Doch, das ist sehr wohl questionable, Kazuma. Und you know it, wenn du schlau bist. Correct, okay. Okay. It is it though? What? Given that the time of death of the victim has already been called into question, it isn't beyond the realms of possibility that what this witness heard wasn't a gunshot at all. Oh please, what are you trying to say? Us lot know what we heard, and it was a loud bang that came from their room. Now you listen to me, a street seller's ears are his livelihood. I don't doubt your ears, sir, but all you can say with certainty is that you heard a noise. Eh? Explain yourself then, counsel. A noise that sounds like a gunshot. Could have been made with den firecracker.
Take that!
Something like this. The culprit could have set off one of these to fake a gunshot. Good gracious, the very fireworks that are sold by the witness. Now hold on a minute. Are you saying I did it? My pretty little firecrackers only make a little pop anyway. See? Not 100 of them together. The Venus special that you sell for 600 pennies sounds like this. As the court can now attest, it sounds very much like a gunshot, in fact. Ah! You're trying to suggest that somebody set one of those fireworks off at the scene. I'm suggesting that somebody knew the defendant was in the room at 5 that day, and sought to implicate him by creating a sound like a gunshot for these peddlers on Fresno streets to hear.
Objection!
But even the accused himself has testified that he saw no one else in the room at the time. Whether it was a gun or a firecracker, the only person present to cause that bang was Baroque van Zieks. One with a match and my firecrackers go pop. See? It's why people like him. I fear for your fingers, young lady.
Objection!
Recently, during my time here in Britain, I've learned of a very useful invention indeed. Something called a time bomb. Good heavens! A bomb! Yes, a device that allows you to blow up whatever you like, whenever you like. Mr. Naruhodo, I worry that your unfortunate phrasing there may lead to yet another international incident. Ah, no, wait, it's the whenever you like part that's important. Whatever you like. Okay. A timed device. Yes, exactly. A timed device. Something of that nature could have been planted as a scene. A device that was able to produce the sound of a gunshot long after the culprit had left. Your extravagant claim will have to be substantiated with evidence, counsel. What proof do you have to suggest in any way that a timed device was employed to create the gunshot sound? Ja, ne? Genau. Das da. Auch die Uhr? Ja, natürlich die Uhr! Wenn die um 5 gestoppt ist? Die Uhr?
Take that!
You are suggesting this could have been used as some sort of time delay device. I did think so, my lord. But it's becoming increasingly clear that we've all been very misguided here.
Objection!
Yes, by you. Okay, is this falsch? No, Counsel. The time has come for the penalty, without delay. Okay, dann war das falsch. Den Polizei, die Aufziehpuppe dann vielleicht? Weil sonst habe ich keine Ahnung.
Take that!
You're suggesting this could have been used as some sort of time delay device. Load. Okay. Oh Mann. Hä? Aber was denn? Die Kerzen! Oder? Weil die ja brennen? Ich weiß es nicht.
Take that!
As the court has already discussed, the tip of one of these cannons in this candelabrum has been blown off. Okay, then this is tatsächlich die Kerzen. Indeed, because it was struck by the bullet, which presumably passed through the victim. I don't think that's possible, my lord. Not possible? Why? Because of the scorching. There are gunpowder scorch marks clearly visible on the broken candle. There are. Goodness, yes. But is it not the case that there was also scorching on the victim around the bullet entry wound? That's right, there was. But as we heard earlier, scorching like that only occurs when the target is at very close range, a matter of centimeters from the gun. Ah! Which means that the scorching on the candle can't possibly be the result of a gunshot. You're suggesting it came from the fireworks. How can it be, eh? The fact that there's such visible scorching on the candle suggests that the fireworks must have been right next to it when they exploded. Or to put it in another way, the candle and firecrackers were joined together. The culprit somehow attached the firecrackers at a point partway down the candle, after the killer had left the scene. The candle slowly burnt down along with the other two, until eventually it ignited the fuse of the firecrackers, generating a loud bang. And that is how these three witnesses came to believe they'd heard a gunshot at 5 o'clock. Well, what a plot. And this implies that the victim could have died earlier than we've been led to believe, the previous day even. Now just hold your horses. All us lot were there here saw the victim going into the building, remember? I couldn't forget that flame-colored hair, even if I wanted to. The person you saw entering the building wasn't the victim at all. Consider this. Ah! Obviously, anybody can wear a wig. So the person that these witnesses saw entering the building 15 minutes before the incident occurred could easily have been someone else entirely, wearing the red hairpiece. Someone else? Do you mean to say it was the same person who contrived the firecracker trick? In other words, Inspector Gregson's killer. Pfft. Oh, very impressive, Ryonosuke Naruhodo. Kazuma, I'm really quite amazed you've come this far. But after all, wasn't I the one who told you that you had all the markings of a great defense lawyer? I also noticed the lack of a time of death in this report, a stark omission. But as far as I'm concerned, this whole country's justice system leaves a lot to be desired. Order! 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 Prosecutor Asogi, what on earth do you mean by that statement? I hear that many of the leading members of Britain's judiciary are present to observe this trial today. So we cannot allow even the slightest doubt to be overlooked. The defense's assertion about the time of death based on the victim's stopwatch is just conjecture. But, while the possibility exists that my learned friend may be correct, we have a duty to explore it. Well, certainly, I would agree with you. And what immediately comes to mind is, of course, what was Inspector Gregson doing and where did he go on the day before the incident? Do you know? The inspector always carried out his investigative work alone. His movements were treated as confidential within Scotland Yard. Das ist ja aber auch irgendwie dumm von Inspector Gregson, ne? Dass er das immer alleine gemacht hat, weil Kriminalfälle untersuchen ist jetzt nicht unbedingt immer das sicherste, was du alleine machen kannst. Also da, keine Ahnung, ich würde mir dann eine Safe Person mitnehmen, aber then again bin ich kein Detektiv, also oder Polizist, also I don't know. His movements were treated as confidential within Scotland Yard, even within the yard. However, considering the evidence we've been presented with so far, I'd say it's fairly apparent that what case the man was pursuing. Wouldn't you, my learned friend? I do have a feeling about what case he might have been investigating. Yes, I agree. Surely. My lord, the defense believes it can explain to the court the case that was being investigated by Investor Gregson. Yeah, nice. Investigiert uns. Inspector Gregson at the time of his death. Very well, counsel. Present your argument to the court. What evidence is suggested of the case being investigated by the inspector of the day prior to the incident? Das Noticeboard oder nicht? Einfach die Vorfälle vom Reaper.
Take that!
I can't say that I find your answer suggestive of anything in particular. Other than perhaps that it's utterly wrong. That much you have clarified most expertly. Well, congratulations, Rionos Gennarodo. You deserve a reward for that expert display. Okay, RIP. Did you just draw Karuma on me, my friend? Hat er ja gemacht, ja. But there's one particular piece of evidence that really does stand out in showing what case... Ach, natürlich. Natürlich, die rote Perücke. Der Red-Headed League. Ist natürlich nur die Frage, müssen wir die Perücke präsentieren oder den Artikel? Ich präsentiere erstmal die Perücke.
Take that!
I believe this red hairpiece points to the answer. We might assume it was part of a disguise used to carry out an undercover investigation. Surely not. Such a brightly colored hairpiece would only serve to make the inspector more noticeable. Yes, that's quite true. It would definitely have made him stand out in the crowd. Except that is in a crowd of gentlemen from the Red-Headed League. The Red-Headed League. So, you'd already worked it out. What on earth is this all about? Is there such an extraordinary league of gentlemen? The Red-Headed League is currently under investigation for a grand deception. A deception of what nature, Counsel? They've been targeting red-headed men across all of London and tricking them out of small sums of money. 2 men were arrested for the misdemeanor only yesterday, in fact. My lord, the defense calls for those 2 men to be summoned at once. 2 redheads? Inspector Gregson clearly infiltrated the Red-Headed League using this hairpiece, so it's very likely that he had direct contact with these criminals. And it's quite possible that such contact led to more serious events. Das sind bestimmt die 2, die bei Herlock waren. I concur that we cannot in good conscience leave this new avenue unexplored. die am Anfang bei Hurlock waren. Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Well, it's another possible line of enquiry for us at least. The prosecution will make immediate arrangements for the charged man to appear. Bring these two red-headed league conspirators before me, Prosecutor Aozogi. At once, my lord. Very good. We will have a 30-minute recess. Court is adjourned. To be continued? Das wäre gut, weil ich dann gleich was essen gehe. To be continued. Na, tatsächlich. Okay. Ja. Dann kriegen wir es wohl im nächsten Part mit der rothaarigen Liga zu tun. Interesting. Übrigens, etwas, was ich jetzt hier gerade kurz anmerke. Wir haben jetzt gerade erst auch wieder 20 Minuten. Ab und zu fallen die Parts etwas länger aus und ab und zu etwas kürzer. Ich persönlich finde es jetzt nicht schlimm. Und wenn ihr das hier seht, dann werden die Parts eh schon alle fertig und hochgeladen sein und nach veröffentlicht. Deswegen bringt es jetzt auch nichts, jetzt zu kommentieren, ich hätte das aber gerne anders, weil wenn ihr das seht, ist schon alles vorproduziert und ready to raushauen. Es ist gerade der 2. September und ihr seht das hier wahrscheinlich, ich denke mal frühestens im November. Tatsächlich. Aber ja, falls das irgendwen stört, entschuldige ich mich, aber ich denke mal, es ist in Ordnung, wenn mal mehr kommt, mal weniger. Das sind dann immer so Special-Folgen, wo die länger sind, wo viel passiert. Und hier jetzt gerade ist zwar auch viel passiert, aber in einem kleineren Zeitrahmen. Deswegen, ja, ich hoffe, das ist in Ordnung. Falls nicht, könnt ihr gerne einen Kommentar schreiben. Ändern kann ich es nicht mehr, weil es ist schon alles vorproduziert dann. Aber ja, ich hoffe, ihr seht das auch als in Ordnung an, falls das hier überhaupt jemand guckt. Das kann ja auch sein, dass das hier einfach niemals jemand sehen wird und ich es einfach nur für mich spiele, was auch überhaupt nicht schlimm wäre. Ja, dann würde ich sagen, war es das mit diesem Part. Mal gucken. Also, ich denke mal, wir werden bei unserer Annahme erstmal bleiben, dass Inspector Gregson schon vorher gestorben ist und dass mit dem Firecracker quasi nur ein ja, wie heißt es? Ein Misslead war, um zu denken, dass er halt um 17 Uhr an dem Tag gestorben ist. Aber wissen tue ich es natürlich nicht. Und ihr auch nicht. Deswegen sehen wir es im nächsten Part. Und in der nächsten Aufnahmesession. Ich bedanke mich fürs Zuschauen. Ich bedanke mich fürs Dabeisein. Und ja, nächstes Mal geht's dann weiter. Bis dann. Ciao. Habe ich jetzt überhaupt gespeichert? Ich muss das speichern. Speicher. Trial Part 1. Okay. Ja, okay. Dann bedanke ich mich fürs Zuschauen. Bedanke mich fürs Dabeisein. Und bis zum nächsten Mal. Ciao. Tschüss. Und Einspruch natürlich. Bis bald. Ciao.